Welcome to another episode of the Rookie Hunter Podcast. If you're returning to the show, thank you for joining us for another conversation. If this is your first time listening, this podcast is all about new hunters and their adventures in the backcountry of British Columbia. On this episode, Kelly and I will be talking about hunting and its presence on social media, the problems with spreading misinformation, our good friends the vegans, and I also pay tribute to the man that inspired me to hunt. If you'd like to contact us with questions, comments, or show ideas, please send an email to therookieHunterPodcast@gmail.com. You can also connect with us on Twitter and Instagram. Thanks again for joining us for another episode of the Rookie Hunter Podcast. So this is episode 3 of the Rookie Hunter Podcast. My name is Mike Peterson.
I'm Kelly Molnar.
So this was kind of a fun week, Kel. We recorded a few episodes just to build up a bit of a library, but now we're officially on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, I don't know, whatever that app you're using.
Pocket Cast.
So we're kind of all over the place now, so
yeah.
I'll be curious to check the stats and see where people are listening from. Wherever you're getting this from, if you dig what we're doing, we would very much appreciate it if you can leave a rating and review for us. Being a new podcast, it's really hard to sort of separate yourself from all the others. There's hundreds or thousands of them, really, right? So Kelly and I are trying really hard to make this something that people are going to enjoy, and we want there to be good production value and all that kind of stuff. So if you are digging this, please just take it takes 2 minutes or whatever to leave a rating and review for us. And if you don't like the show, go fuck yourself. Just kidding. But so that's kind of all exciting. Kel, do you want to recap anything from last week? We talked about the BC wolf call a little bit. We finished recording and we kind of realized that I don't know if we really came to any certain conclusion because it's such an in-depth thing. Is there anything you wanted to follow up with on that one?
No, I think, I don't know, from my perspective, I guess said what I wanted to at this point. I still think there's a lot more research that could be done. But one thing that I thought about was, at the end of the day, hunters, the public is kind of going to group hunters as like one group, right? Like they're all kind of thrown in the same bucket for people that aren't necessarily aware of the different differences in hunters, or some people are out for this, or some people are out to get the biggest grizzly bear head and put it right in their living room, or maybe they aren't in it for meat, or there's so many different reasons for hunting. But at the end of the day, I think we all kind of get thrown into the same bucket, and there's a point where we still have to band together for conservation efforts, but also just to protect the rights of hunters themselves. So that's all I wanted to say.
Cool. Yeah, it's just such a complicated thing. I think we'll probably talk about it more at some point. But yeah, I hope that people got something from that conversation. But yeah, we can move on from that one. I've been having some fun just poking around on Twitter and Instagram and seeing what people are up to. And I came across something on Twitter, and it was a petition to stop the posting of hunting photos on Instagram. So basically what they're trying to get rid of is anything that promotes animal cruelty on Instagram. So I've got mixed feelings on this one, because I always told myself that when I did get something, and we did get something, it's not really photo worthy anyways, but that I wouldn't post it anywhere, because I know that it has the potential to offend people. However, I think there are places where it is appropriate to post. So on our Instagram account, we follow a lot of hunters. So I'm sort of expecting to see guys with whatever they shot, right? And if I see something I dislike, or if I'm irritated by what somebody's posting, it's very simple to unfollow, right?
Yeah, if you don't want to see hunting pictures, why are you following hunters?
Yeah.
It's not like their avatars or their names are misleading for the most part.
Yeah, it's pretty.
And if you start seeing pictures of mule deer and all this stuff on there, then maybe unfollow them and know that there are people out there that maybe understand what that's all about, and they're looking forward to seeing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But, I think they're kind of blurring the line between, like, there's animal cruelty, and then there's the conservation piece, which we already talked about last episode.
Yeah.
So to kind of mix those two together, I think there's aspects of conservation that are going to be construed as animal cruelty, because some of it involves killing animals to balance the populations or whatever.
Yeah.
But so I don't know. I feel like people are kind of grasping at straws to make their argument, and to their argument is kind of a moral high ground type thing. But
and I think it is a lack of education. And maybe that's our responsibility to inform people about, conservation and why it is important, right?
Yeah.
But I could see how, somebody might be looking at a hashtag that's, say, backpacking or something like that, and they could be cruising through there, and all of a sudden, dead animal. You know what I mean?
I agree with you though. I'm the same way. I don't really want to post those pictures to Facebook and to Instagram and all these places, because I don't know. I mean, I just don't think a lot of people want to see it, and I don't feel like I have to show everybody. Like, I'm fine just sharing it with my hunting partner and my buddies that maybe are hunters as well. Like, I don't feel like I have to advertise it to the world. I'm out there to kind of get some meat and experiences. But I mean, I'll share all the pictures that we took along the way. Landscape and all that kind of stuff is awesome, and everybody appreciates that. But
yeah,
I mean, we're also not killing a deer and throwing it on the roof and driving around the neighborhood with it, because we respect that people might not like that either. So
yeah,
I kind of treat it the same way, I guess.
And that's even part of what we covered in the core program when we got our hunting license, is that you can't do those things as far as throwing a dead animal in the front of your car and driving through the middle of downtown, because it's going to make people upset, and that affects the reputation of every hunter. So when you do something stupid like that,
yeah,
you're ruining for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
And most people aren't going to go out of their way to research conservation and hunting. They're just going to see that, and that's, is what it is. And I could see why.
Yeah.
People would be frustrated by something like that. Yeah. But I don't think that it's fair to, have those things removed from Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or anything like that. However, I think I read something in that article that it says they were successful in having that removed from Facebook. I should double check.
I saw that too.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, but I mean, I still see lots of pictures on Facebook.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know, if people don't report it, that's fine. Living in BC, it's a little bit different. Maybe people aren't as quick to report those kinds of things, but
there's a lot of other offensive stuff on Facebook, but
oh man, I can't even go on there anymore. It's just a black hole of ridiculous bullshit. So I would rather look at hunting photos than
me too.
Most of the stuff that's on there.
Yeah.
So I don't think you can take someone's passion away from them, and like I said, it's a really simple process to not follow somebody or just keep scrolling, and just you got to respect that that's somebody's hobby and something that they're really interested in.
I kind of think of it too as there's a bit of an opportunity there in terms of photography.
Yeah.
Because like I might not want to take a picture of a mountain goat that's all white and has blood all over it, and I'm sitting there holding it.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I've ever been in a position to, but you could. Most people will clean it up a little bit and maybe not have a big grin, but like more of a somber look. Like, this is an accomplishment. Kind of, I'm taking it seriously. That's a little less likely to rub people the wrong way.
Yeah.
But you could even take it a step further and get more kind of artistic with the photos themselves, not necessarily showing the whole animal, but like your hand on an antler or stuff like that.
Yeah. And even you snapped a photo of me clipping the date off of my tag.
Yeah.
Which was kind of cool. You could see the deer in the background, but it wasn't really in focus.
Yeah, it wasn't a gory shot or anything.
No, and even the ones we got of me with it, they weren't really gory, but again, I'm not going to frame that and put it on my wall or anything like that. And I only showed it to people who asked to see it, right?
Yeah.
And the day that we shot it, there was a few people that said send photos, so of course I did. And then there's people I know that don't want to see it. Like, I know my wife had no interest in seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just did it because I knew that there would be people that would want to see it, and it was our first deer, so you kind of want to capture that. But I don't know, just for ourselves more than anything.
Yeah.
And I really like you said, the outdoor photography and just capturing some of those things early in the morning. And there's one photo in particular, actually it's the one that's in the background of our logo there. That was the morning of our epic hike in the park. And the sun had just come out as we got to the top of that hike, and it was like, that's the shit that is hunting for me. Like, that's the moments really that I enjoy the most. The kill is such a small part of it, really.
And I think, like, the reason I follow a lot of those Instagram accounts where they're showing pictures of downed animals and stuff is you can kind of, if you're looking closely, you can almost learn a lot from those pictures, like in what kind of habitat those animals were taken and all that kind of stuff. So I think hunters follow it because they're looking for just every opportunity to gather a little bit of knowledge. And
and you see a nice buck or an elk or something like that, it's like, it's almost a little bit of motivation to be like, we need to push harder this year and like get that for ourselves. And and you know, if somebody's just checking in for the first time on this thing, I want to make it clear that it's for meat, for you and I. It's not really about size or anything like that. It's just to get meat in the freezer, basically. So
I actually heard that on the radio. I think it was on a local website too. They had a vote poll where they said, should we ban trophy hunting? And I don't know if there's an actual definition that everyone's operating on for trophy hunting, but my initial response was, well, what do you mean by trophy hunting?
Yeah.
Like, is a trophy to one person the same as a trophy for another person?
I don't think it is.
Like, if I'm in a tree stand and a 2-point walks by and I legally kill that deer for meat, am I a better person that waited 2 more deer for the 4-point to walk by or the 6-point, which is a bigger animal and more meat? But they not only did they get the meat, but they also got, I mean, there's a little more involved with getting a bigger animal like that. It makes you feel like you kind of accomplished a little more, I think. Like, to get those animals means you got a more mature animal that has more knowledge and has lived longer. So I think it's harder to get them, but I'm just wondering what they mean by trophy hunting. I assume they mean like grizzly bear and, you know, all the animals that maybe you're not going to eat, but you just want to get the biggest one and you pay somebody $40,000 to get it. I kind of see the issue there, but
I think you're right. There needs to be a definition for trophy hunting, and if I was to define it, that's how I would see it. Would be basically hunting animals that can't really be used for anything. You know what I mean? And this is a hard one too, because then it goes to the the lion hunting in Africa, and that issue. We already talked about this, but
yeah, because that's tied into a conservation effort too.
It is, and I don't think people understand that. And now it's become a problem, and they're going to call 200 lions because there's a lack of hunters coming from North America now. So I don't know, man. It's a hard thing, but it depends on the animal and the situation. So I always support it as long as there's a positive side to it. So if it's, for the economy of that country or whatever, and for conservation, as long as that's where the money is ending up, and the hunting of these animals is good for that population, or it's good for another type of animal, then yeah, I support it. But if you're just going over there to kill something just for the sake of killing it, I don't know.
Yeah,
that doesn't really make much sense. And
but that's exactly it. So they put a poll out. Do you agree with trophy hunting? Like, how do you answer that question with a yes or no statement? I think it's a false. Like, they're statistically gonna pull this report together that kind of throws these trophy hunters, who knows how they define them, under the bus. But meanwhile, they're pulling all the rest of us into that whole argument. That's kind of what I felt like when I saw that. So I don't know. I think that all started with there was an NHLer that came up to BC, I think, and he took a grizzly bear, apparently unknowing that it was an illegal situation.
Right.
And he ended up getting fined, but
that's fucking dumb, man. If you don't shoot anything unless you're 100% sure.
No, exactly.
You know what I mean? So there's no excuse for that.
I thought he was with a guide, like he was with a party, I thought. So, I mean, for a whole party to not know what's going on, either they're lying or, they're totally negligent, which there's no excuse for.
There is no excuse for it.
Especially if you're going to travel all the way halfway to Alaska. Yeah. Like, you got to have a lot of stuff in line for that, and checking what you can actually shoot should probably be the first step.
Yeah. No, there's no excuse for it.
No.
I don't care what the situation was, or even if you're putting your trust in a guide, you should still know. You just go out there and blindly shoot at something without doing some research. That's ridiculous. So I check, like, you've got the Hunt Buddy app. Like, even if I know, like, if it's 4 points that we can go after, and it switches and it goes from antlerless, and there's different times for mule deers and all that's different from region to region. Even if I'm 100% sure of what I can shoot at that day, on the way up in the truck or while we're waiting for it to get light, I just double check anyways, man, just to kind of clear out any bits of doubt. And because that's the last thing you want to be thinking about when you see something. So there's no excuse for that, and that's the kind of shit that gives everybody a poor reputation. But, so I don't know how we got here, but Instagram. I guess that's where it all started from.
Social media.
Yeah. Which reminds me, I again was trolling around on I think it was on Twitter. And there's a Twitter user called Animal Rescue Crusade. And their tweets were really frustrating this shit out of me, because I understand their
I don't know how you read that stuff. I get so angry.
I know, but it almost makes me want to read it even more, because it's like, but so here's one of them. It says, "You're not an environmentalist if you eat meat." So dissect that one for me, Cal.
You're not an environmentalist if you eat meat.
This is all vegan shit, basically, that we're dealing with these guys. That one, it just frustrates me, man.
Yeah.
because it's
I
such
think I posted a tweet on our account, Twitter account. And it's a study that was printed in Time magazine about how if we, like, eating meat essentially made us human.
right.
Because the amount of effort that it takes to eat meat, get the meat, the amount of nutrient that is in the meat, I don't know. Basically, they come up with these biologists, evolutionary type scientists, had basically come up with saying that the reason the human brain is the size it is because of all this evolutionary impacts based on how they got and ate and prepared their meat.
Right.
So really, the reason that we can speak and be intelligent and all this stuff is likely due to eating meat way back in the day.
Yeah, because they would have to organize hunts and communicate somehow. And,
yeah, which kind of goes into the discussion of, like, it's only the last 100 years where we haven't had to hunt for food, approximately.
right.
So now we're in this, like, in the year 2000, and we've got all these people that grew up in cities and never had to do anything for their food except go to the grocery store. And now all of a sudden hunters are the bad guys. But
Yeah.
I don't know. At the same time, I think we chatted a little bit about Costco and, like, how much meat goes through a Costco every year.
Yeah.
Do you remember what
I can look it up.
it was, like 100 million pounds or
Yeah.
something like that?
Yeah. Keep talking, I'll find it here.
And I think we're kind of in an interesting situation because neither one of us is like ultra conservative or conservative really at all. Like, we're both, I would say, trying to be green where we can and all that kind of stuff. And that's partly why we got into hunting. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's what they're talking about, is the whole just industrialization of food.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah, I think so. But I'll read a few more of theirs and then it'll give you an idea. But so yeah, I found that stat. It says Costco sells over 100 million pounds of fresh ground beef every year. That's just
ground beef.
Ground beef,
and that's just Costco. And that might just be one country, right? So, and I don't know if all those animals are free range or if they're kind of brought up in a cage.
I read some more stuff, so it's all like AAA meat. So Costco's standards are pretty high for meat quality, but I guess there's been a decline in cattle production in Canada. So now they're actually getting it from the States as well. And I'm not really sold on the American standards for housing these animals, and the USDA. I actually can't really speak to it because I haven't looked into it. But from what I've seen, it's pretty horrendous, and I don't think we're clear of any guilt on that either. But these are reasons why you and I have switched to hunting, and it's because I want, and I think you agree with me, want to know where my meat's coming from. And I don't want to support this type of farming, like where it's.
I think one of the largest dairy farms in Canada just got in deep water because they were mistreating animals.
I came across that, So, that's what makes me mad is these people who are calling out hunters and as being cruel to animals and.
But in a way, they're part of the solution. Like, we're trying to be part of the solution.
Exactly.
Trying to be like basically independent, right?
I'll read you two more.
So, the other thing I've been thinking about is I saw a video by Jamie Oliver.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, he's a kind of like a Jon Stewart type TV host, but he's on HBO. Super good show. He's uncensored basically, so he could say whatever he wants on there. But he was talking about how much food Americans waste per year. And it's 750 football stadiums you can fill with wasted food
Jesus.
per year. And they went to dumps, and they basically, like, they would go to the dump manager, whatever you'd call him, and he goes, yeah, this is a fresh pile of produce that showed up. And it's literally fresh produce in boxes that passed its date, and it's still totally fine. But you've got spinach, lettuce, like carrots, everything just lying there that they could have gave away. So like where he was going with it was, how can we change this system so that we can actually donate this food to people who need it? Like there's people that are starving and we're throwing food in a dumpster.
Yeah.
But where I was going with it was, how much deer have you wasted from that deer we killed?
0.
Exactly.
Not even like the tiniest piece.
Yeah. And I'll admit to like going to a restaurant or going to the grocery store and getting some, like a chicken, and I'll eat as much as I can. And there's a little bit left, and I'm kind of like, I don't know, I'm pretty full.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the meat that you got, and you know how good quality that stuff is, and that animal pretty much sacrificed itself for you to eat, there's a whole different ball game. Like, you do not throw that stuff in the garbage, and you shouldn't throw the other stuff in there either. But it's just a lot more real when it's
and I think it changes your outlook on everything, because now you're thinking about that. I'm sure you're thinking about it if you do buy meat from a butcher. You look at it a little bit different.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting, man? The more I get involved with food, so years ago I worked at a winery, and so I was involved from they had just a small crew, and they were just getting started. So I was involved with everything from pruning to thinning to picking the grapes to setting up the winery, because it was brand new. They got me doing the winemaking, the bottling, the labeling, everything. So when I realized how many hours go into just one glass of wine, I fucking enjoy a glass of wine now, and I take it a lot slower and don't take it for granted, because again, I realize, especially if it's the wine that I was involved in making, that, you know, there's so much time and effort, and for them it's passion and love and everything that went into creating that translates into meat, because it's the same thing. You and I spent that whole day working on that deer, and we spent our first season and a half or whatever it was trying to find a deer. So every time I eat that, I think about that day and everything that was involved with it, and I have respect for that animal, and it's totally different, man.
Yeah, it almost seems like by going through that process, like at the side of my, in the back of my mind, I'm almost closer to, like, you can understand where vegans come from.
Yeah.
Or vegetarians, right? Because it's like, okay, now I understand what it means to go out there, take something that's living, and eat it because I like meat.
Yeah.
So that was pretty amazing. Like, I feel like I was closer to the vegans than ever before, because now I'm actually paying attention to what I'm doing, and I'm not just going to the grocery store and taking for granted everything I've been shoving in my mouth for the last 30 years. But at the end of the day, I like meat, so I choose to continue to eat it. But I fully understand the implication of what we're doing.
Yeah.
So the connection is there, whereas the people that maybe aren't into hunting, and it's not like everybody has to hunt. If everybody hunted, that would probably be an issue.
It would be, yeah.
But I think when we talk about non-hunters, it's usually the ones that are bashing the hunters. So it's not like I have anything against non-hunters, but I just think it's a little bit odd that maybe people don't have that connection. Like, my mom and her family have never, like, they're total opposite of hunters. And maybe that's why it took me a while to get into it. But even now she's like, oh, I don't know why you guys are out there doing that and stuff. And I'm just, it's always that argument, right? Like, well, you just went and bought a chicken.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, it's tricky. And like I said on the last podcast, is like, I respect somebody's choice to be vegan, but it's not fair for them to be disrespectful to guys like us by,
Mhm.
and these people I think have a lot of followers too. So I don't know, man. It's just like
I
you're
want.
not doing anybody any good by spitting shit out like this. I'm gonna read you a couple more.
I'm
So,
sure. I'm sure there's a lot of good vegans that
oh yeah,
appreciate
I'm
that
sure.
hunters are maybe a little less of the issue. It's more of the industrialized food
Yeah.
companies that
Mm-hmm.
you got methane gas and just the whole insensitivity towards those animals that people just choose to ignore.
Yeah.
But I'm on their side on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
100%. And that's why we're hunting. So,
Yeah.
but they went on to say one of them was you can't love animals and eat them at the same time. And the one before that was hunting is murder. You have nothing to be proud of. Hashtag compassion. Animals, leave them alone.
Yeah. Hashtag providing for your family. Hashtag if nobody did it in the past, your family wouldn't be here.
Yeah, and hashtag fuck off because that's stupid, man. Like, and these are getting a whole whack of retweets and people commenting. So it just bugs me that someone will just read that and be like, yeah, hunting's bullshit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Without giving it a chance and
Yeah.
researching it. So don't just,
And
it goes for anything. Don't just blindly follow something, read about it. And that's where we're talking about the Cecil line and all that shit, man. Initially, I was like, yeah, that's bullshit. Until I actually read into it.
mm-hmm. Like, how do they know? It goes back to what you were saying last episode that some hunters, the hunters that they think are hunters, are the ones that are in your face all the time.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
posting
exactly.
pictures.
Yeah.
They got big smile on their face, and
Yeah.
that's fine. But maybe there are hunters that like they take something and I'm sure most hunters are like this. Like they appreciate, and the First Nations too. Like they thank that animal when it's down for what it's doing for their family and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's probably hunters out there that are actually like crying when they walk up to the animal.
Yeah.
Almost like it's almost to that point. It's not like they don't respect the animal. They probably respect it more than anybody. But
with the whitetail that we had, I definitely had a moment when we went down there and we were checking it out where, yeah, you do feel like, I don't know, there's sort of a connection there, and you know, you put your hand on the animal and all that kind of stuff, and you do have a moment of sort of being thankful for it. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
There was no disrespect to that animal, nothing but respect, really, from both of us.
Mm-hmm.
So we did everything in our power to make the most out of every part of it and keep it clean and all that shit. So
I think at the end of the day, it comes down to, do you want to eat meat?
mm-hmm.
That's the only question there is. And if your answer is yes, then I think it's very hard to dispute that hunting is less honorable way to get that meat than it is to go to the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the main issue is that people don't appreciate the honorable, that it is honorable to get it yourself. And as long as, like, I don't know, I just think people that are accusing hunters of being killers are the ones that think they're just out there like to be killers.
Yeah.
And it's not true.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. It's like the polar opposite of these tweets I was reading you. There's hunters like that are
mm-hmm.
just as loud and obnoxious, that are causing problems. So there might be a vegan listening to this and like, fuck, we're not all like that. And I'm sure that's very much the case. But somehow these type of people really, they get their word out there so much. I don't know, maybe for the same reason where I said, like, I kind of like to read it because it pisses me off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like you go to Amazon, only the people that had an issue with something are the ones that put the review up.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the one, it's just polarized.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's kind of why I can't read that stuff, because it just frustrates me. Like, you get so frustrated because you feel like they're almost gaining momentum. Like when you see how many retweets they get and all this stuff, and it's like, oh man, there's, but at the other side, like we talked about in other episodes, there's so many hunters out there now that have the spotlight that are that are doing good things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why it's such a weird time in that respect, is that like there are lots of guys doing good things for the hunting community. There's also a few things, that take it a few steps back.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's going in the right direction, and it's because of guys like Steven Ranella that really kind of motivated me as you and I got into hunting to really get out there and sort of look at all the positive aspects of it. So I'm glad that there are guys like that, right? So I think we're going in the right direction, but again, I respect everyone's choices. And
it's a good idea to join a local game club, I think.
Yeah, and you did.
I did. Osceola Game Club. I actually haven't. This is just recently that I did this, but I really want to get more into the actual game clubs and meeting people and just kind of getting a little more involved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about this before we started recording, and hopefully that's where we're going to be able to meet some experts, because we're not experts, obviously. So, that's the best way to do it. And if you are new to hunting, then you're absolutely right. Go out there and get memberships to these places and meet people, especially if you don't have anyone to go with. I'm sure there's guys that are willing to take you under their wing, and I'm willing to do that for anybody that, we're friends with, if they're interested. We don't know everything, but we can definitely teach guys a few things and get them started at least.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is those clubs will have people there that you can talk to, and they're from the area. They'll teach you some stuff. And they're fishermen too, like whether you want to hunt or fish or whatever. Yeah. Or maybe you just want to shoot. Maybe you want to buy a bow and shoot, and you just go up there for some archery.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's fun too. You'd be surprised how fun it is to just shoot a bow.
You don't have to hunt to be into these things, man.
No, it's so relaxing to shoot a bow. Yeah. Like a rifle is a little different because it goes boom.
You can't just go out into...
You can't do it in your garage.
Yeah.
But a bow, you can actually set things up in your garage. You can stand at the end of your driveway, where we are anyways.
Yeah, which we've done.
You can hike out a little ways, and I can spend like 4 hours straight just shooting 5 arrows, walking up, pulling them out, shooting them again, walking up there, just back and forth by myself, because it's completely silent, and there's just, I don't know, like it's traveling so fast, but you can still see it in the air.
Yeah.
Like there's something, I don't know.
It's calming, and
there's
such a connection between you and that arrow, because it's all up to you. You know what I mean? The slightest movement translates into a few inches on the other end, right?
Yeah.
So when you sink a shot right into the bullseye, it's pretty rewarding. I've got a crossbow, which was given to me, but I would like to switch and get get something like what you've got there. But
yeah, I would recommend that, actually. Like if we could both get into like an archery.
Yeah.
The crossbow is really cool, but I find I know I've carried it a few times, and it's just it's
awkward.
It's pretty heavy. It's kind of. On the other hand, it's like a little mini rifle.
It's fucking cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're doing a stand type situation, it's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool to have all these things. And like I said, if I'd bought it wouldn't have been my first choice, but it's fucking rad to use anyways. But I feel like it's such a process to set it up and get an arrow in there, and whereas with a bow you can just sort of keep pulling it and dropping arrows in there and that.
And there's a lot of I was so surprised at the amount of physical fitness you need to be an archer.
Well, I remember when you first got into it.
When I first bought that thing, I completely destroyed my shoulder, and I ended up with tennis elbow because I bought a bow that it was a 70-pound bow, and I'd never drawn a bow in my life. Well, actually, that's a lie. Back in the day, one of our friends, his dad's a big, he's involved in BC Wildlife Federation and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But he had an archery school back then. I was probably 10 years old, and I remember joining, and it was so much fun. I wasn't using compound bows or anything back then, but it was just a recurve.
Oh yeah.
Completely forgot about that, but I guess
that
it
the one
makes.
that was underneath Subway?
It was in the mall.
Okay, I think they might have moved around, but yeah, because
Yeah, it
my old
probably
man
did.
used to take me there too. It's fun.
Yeah, it was. So I completely forgot about that. I guess it makes sense now that I ended up with a bow later.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Plus, yeah, with a bow, there's just more opportunities, and you can get out earlier. I don't know if we're ready to. We'll see how much time we put in this year, but to get something with a bow.
I went out this last season just to get out a couple weeks early.
Yeah.
And I came very close to getting a mule deer. Like the thing jumped onto the road right in front of me. It's just that it never actually turned broadside. It knew I was back there. It couldn't see me because I was full camo decked out and I wasn't moving, but I kind of spooked it out of the bush and it jumped right in front of me on the road. And it was probably 40, 50 yards. It never actually turned, and even if it did, I probably wouldn't have taken a 40, 50 yard shot on my first deer with the bow anyways. But it definitely boosts the difficulty of hunting to a whole new level.
Yeah.
But it's so much fun.
I think, yeah, getting something with a bow would be even more rewarding than with a rifle.
Yeah. Well, they say where the rifle hunt ends is where the bow hunting begins.
Right.
So you got to get to 100 yards or 200 yards. And at that point is where your hunt starts.
Right.
You got to try to get within 20 at that point.
Yeah.
Or at 40.
Yeah.
So we can't even get within 500
Yeah.
of a big buck, but
yeah,
we'll get there.
Yeah. We were talking about bear hunting, and we've decided that we're going to do it. Were you've been mapping some stuff out at work? Because we're already starting to plan for this year, which I think is important, to start thinking about where you're going to be. So I sent you a spot. I sent you the coordinates for that one. Mm-hmm. And then you've got a few places in mind as well that you want to...
Yeah, I've got a few places. A little bit selfish, though, because all my places are right beside well-known fly fishing lakes.
Oh, right.
Or not well-known, but like I know them to be good fly fishing lakes. And I'd like to merge the two together. So, yeah, I've got some spots planned out. And we also used a local forum hunting site.
Oh, yeah. I looked on there after you sent the link, and I saw there was a couple of guys had posted.
Oh, yeah. There's 3 pages now.
Oh, wow. Holy fuck.
Yeah, so check that out. But basically, we've never hunted black bear, so I thought I'll use the local forums, throw it up there, see what I get back. And we've got like over 3 pages of responses back from guys that are giving us tips left and right.
Good. Is it all positive? Is there a couple of trolls on there? There's usually a couple of guys.
No, it's all positive.
Nice.
Like every response.
Yeah, so see, that's where the hunting community is pretty cool, man, because if you put something up in, I don't know, other forums like that, you get some guys like, I don't even bother with recording in music forums because it's just guys trolling each other, which is counterproductive.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see that.
I kind of treat BC Hunting, that website, as almost like a game club, because for the most part, everybody that's on there is, they're pretty like banded together.
Right.
You know, they understand the seriousness of the whole topic, really. Yeah. So it's kind of a cool place for sure. Yeah.
Even if you're not from BC, go on there and check it out, because there's a ton of useful information on there. So, yeah. So I think we've got some spots to check out, and we're, what's the date today? It's March 10th. April 1st is when bear season starts. I don't think we'll be able to get out right away. I kind of want to wait a little bit until there's berries and all that kind of shit out there, and that, and lots of stuff for them to eat, because I think when they start coming out of their dens, they're looking for dead carcasses to eat and shit like that. So I don't know if that's the time you want to go after them. But you sending me something? Kel's giving me sign language here.
I was trying to be all inconspicuous by sending you a text.
Yeah, we'll get there for sure. Um, yeah. Anyways, one thing I want to talk about, we'll leave this for another one, but is recently there was a thing on CBC radio that was talking about wild pigs, which are not wild. They've escaped from farms and they've become a huge problem, more so in Alberta, but they are popping up in areas in British Columbia. I would love to go on a pig hunt.
I didn't know they were in BC.
They are, yeah.
Like feral pigs?
Yeah, yeah.
Huh.
And
they can be dangerous, can't they?
They can be, and they can do a lot of damage. So in BC and in Alberta, and I think this is the same for a lot of places in the US as well, is if you see one, doesn't matter what time of year it is, anything like that, you can go ahead and shoot that animal because they do a ton of damage, and they reproduce at a crazy rate. I can't remember what it is, but I think they can have multiple litters each year. So they just like crazy. Their populations will just explode, and they're bad news. So
fresh bacon.
Yeah, and apparently bacon. It's like the best, really. Yeah. So what happens is they'll get off of out of a farmer's whatever, they'll escape and go out to the wild on their own and start repopulating and that. So they're an issue, and I would love to go out and hunt pigs because it sounds like they're delicious.
I was listening to a podcast recently, and they said that there's more deaths from pigs every year than sharks.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because farmers kind of like, if you have a farm with a bunch of pigs on it and you slip and fall and like concuss yourself or knock yourself out in a pig pen, like you're not going to be there anymore. Jesus. Like it's going to be a quick.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've heard that I think it's like 20 deaths a year from pigs in the US or something like that.
That's crazy.
I could be totally wrong, but
I don't doubt it. I mentioned that farm we looked after, and having the chickens and getting the eggs and stuff every morning, but they also had pigs there, and they literally eat anything, man. Anything.
It's kind of creepy.
Yeah. So, and yeah, they have strong jaws and everything like that. Like, it was kind of crazy because they told us like there was just a bin in the house, so any kind of scraps, which is actually kind of cool. Any leftovers, like you name it, man, like even coffee grounds and like a full rotted onion, anything, man, you just throw it in a bin and throw that stuff out for them. They'll eat all of it. It's crazy. So yeah, I don't doubt that.
Do you know what region those pigs are in BC?
There's some in the North Okanagan, actually.
Oh, really?
There's actually an app now that you can people can report where they've seen them. There wasn't a whole lot for BC, but they're around enough so that it was a thing on CBC radio.
Is it outside because I don't see any open seasons.
Oh, like, anytime. Yeah.
Oh, so it's not part of the like.
No, and you don't have to report it or anything. It's probably wise to go onto an app like that and say that you saw them and report how many you saw, but you don't have to. But you're encouraged to harvest those animals if you see them because they're not good. They're bad for. Yeah. So it would be cool if we had if we knew where they were. I don't know. To go out pig hunting would be pretty cool.
Turkey hunting starts too.
It's true.
I'd like to do that, but I don't think there's a whole lot of them in the Okanagan.
They're definitely in the Kootenay region.
Yeah, like my parents' place. Every time I go back there in the spring, there's like 10 turkeys walking around the front yard.
Oh.
Like they're all toms with the big beard. So it'd be nice to go back there. I don't think I can kill one in the front yard, but we can go to Fort Shepherd or something.
Yeah. Also around Christina Lake. We're giving areas away, but doesn't really matter. When was it? It was during the summer when we had all those forest fires going on. I had to go back from the Okanagan to the Kootenays. What was it for? I think it was for a funeral I can't remember what the hell happened. Oh yeah, my grandma was sick and in the hospital or whatever. And there's all these fires happening, so I actually had to go up through Vernon and take the Needles Ferry and come through Nakusp and all that shit to get to trail. But they ended up that was the only route to get from the Okanagan to the Kootenays. And then you could also go further north up to Revelstoke. This is great radio for people who aren't familiar with BC. But long story short is by the time I was ready to come back to the Okanagan, those routes were so congested with people and the ferry waits were so long that essentially the only way for me to get back to the Okanagan was to go through the States. Mm-hmm. So I went up just west of Christina Lake, where that border crossing is. Mm-hmm. And there was a shit ton of turkeys back there, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sure they would appreciate us going over there with our shotguns beside the
right
border.
Next to the border. Yeah. But yeah, there's lots around there. And I've never seen any around here except for turkey vultures that were following us when we were...
yeah. Dying. That wasn't even hunting. That was mountain biking.
Mountain biking, but yeah.
Yeah, let's not take any food and see how that goes. 6-hour mountain bike trip.
Yeah.
Just vultures circling us.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been that hungry in my life.
Well, luckily we found some old ass granola in my backpack.
Lifesaver. Like I was getting Charlie horses on the way down.
You season up.
Just brutal.
Yeah.
But I know what not to do backpacking now.
There you go. You learned a lesson from that one. That's a whole other story, that one. I'm going to jump into something else here, Cal. Is there anything you want to go over? Do you want to talk about any gear or anything like that? Because our last episode was supposed to be sort of centered around gear a little bit, but we always seem to run out of time, and we quickly went over a few things.
I don't know. Maybe we could do like a more thorough gear episode.
Like a full-on gear. Yeah.
I just waxed my boots up with this Nick Wax stuff that's waterproof, but I don't know. I don't know if people are going to, if we throw this little gear tip in the middle of a 80-minute podcast, that people probably pick up on it. So maybe I'll save it.
We can do more of a gear one, and I think Kelly's going to be our gear guy for sure. That's his area of expertise.
That's all I need is, all my wife needs is me having another excuse to read shit about gear.
We never mentioned that you bought a pretty significant tool for this year. It's made out of aluminum.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I found a Lund 12-foot that, was actually in a boat show, and I got it. It's like brand new, but I got it for pretty much a used price. So I was stoked.
Screaming deal on that.
The whole fly fishing thing is taking, a life of its own as well. So, but, really looking forward to getting out. A lot of the lakes around here that I want to get to are higher elevation. So I think there's still snow up there, but
it'll be another month before we're really getting out there again. But
you should see it. It's in the garage. I got it. It's on the trailer. I got all the oars and the fishing rod holders, and like I'm setting up the whole thing. I got a electric trolling motor ready to go. And,
you do? Nice.
Yeah. Sweet. And I've got like the oars, like solid oars with the oar rings and everything. So even if that thing goes down, we can still just paddle around.
Actually, man, I've had trolling and using oars actually works really well. I know this from experience because my brother used to make me fucking roam around the lake. But it's because the speed is kind of changing, so the thing is, it's pulling a little bit more realistically. But anyways.
Yeah, throw a leech on there and it looks just like it's kind of swimming through the water. I'm pretty pumped about that.
The only thing I can say about gear in short here is that's the great thing about having a group of guys that are all interested in the same thing, is because collectively we've got a lot of stuff between you and I and Landon and whoever else we're hunting. You're sort of taking over as far as big investment purchases, but I'll pay for the gas, or I'll charge the motor.
Yeah, maybe I'll tone it down a little bit. I'll let somebody else take the lead.
Yeah, the thing is, we get to a certain point where pretty much got, the essentials. These things become luxury items at a certain point, but we're doing pretty good. But yeah, we'll do a full-on gear episode. Cool. So today, Kel, is sort of a significant date, and I think a lot of the reasons why these conversations are happening and why I'm into hunting, and in a roundabout way why you're into hunting, is because of my old man. So I've mentioned him quite a bit, and I've sort of referred to him in past tense, and that's because he actually died 3 years ago today, and yesterday would have been his 70th birthday. So it's kind of cool that we didn't plan to record on this day or anything like that. It just sort of worked out that we were recording a podcast today. So he's very much the reason why I hunt, and he taught me a lot of things. Although I didn't really get to hunt a whole lot with him, I would go out there and join these guys on hunts, and I talked about going with them but never being successful. But I always enjoyed, like, I don't know if I even wanted them to be successful hunts or anything like that. I just really enjoyed being out with everybody, and I think that, where I started to kind of see the benefits of being out early and stuff like that. So a lot of my introduction to hunting, or all of it, really came from him. Unfortunately, it wasn't until he passed that I decided that I was going to actually get my license. So if he knew that, you and I were hunting and we had a hunting podcast, this would all blow his mind. So I think it's pretty cool, and it's a neat way for me to sort of honor his memory and everything like that. But without going into too much detail, I'll sort of just recount what the day was like, and that, if you're cool with going over it, because
sure.
it's I think life should be celebrated. I'm not one to really get too upset when somebody passes away. It's tragic at certain ages, but certain circumstances, be it car accidents or whatever it might be, there's times when someone's life is taken too early. But on the other hand, there's a certain point when you just gotta go, you know what I mean? And so for me, it's always sort of been, looking at all the positive things and trying to do all the things that he would want me to be doing. But each year, him and his buddies would go out. They would rent a tugboat at Kootenay Lake. So I don't know if you know any guys that have gone out and done that. You can actually rent these boats. There's two tugboats in Caslow that you can rent for a weekend. So they would all pool their cash together, rent this thing. They would buy a ton of food and beer, and like just an awesome trip, basically, right? And they would do it every year. So this one fell on his birthday. So he turned 67 while they were out there. And so that would have been the first day that they were on the lake, and they caught a bunch of fish, and they had a wicked birthday dinner and all that kind of stuff. But it was the following day where he woke up feeling sick, and luckily one of the guys, he is like a safety officer at Tech,
Right.
so he knew what was up. He knew that my dad was having heart issues, and my dad always had high blood pressure and all that kind of stuff. So it was obvious what was going, and they had to call in an ambulance and all that stuff. So that was sort of the end of the fishing trip for most of them. And so that was pretty early in the morning, and I got the call that there was an incident on the boat and all that kind of stuff. And he made his way from Caslow to the Nelson Hospital, and eventually they moved him to Trail. And I was able to actually get there and be there with him and stuff, which is obviously great. The funny thing is, man, it's like, so here he is in like a life-threatening situation, and I get there, and he's very much with it and talking and everything like that. And the first thing he starts telling me about is all the fish that they caught and everything like that. And it just kind of goes to show where his mind was at all the time. And, he spent like so much of his, like, if you know my dad, you know that he's an incredible fisher. Like, he spent most of his life on the Columbia River, and it used to drive me crazy because I would go out fishing with him, and we would catch fish like crazy, and then I would go up in the boat on my own and do exactly what he showed me. I wouldn't catch a fucking thing. So he just knew the river so well, and everything like that. But anyway, so it wasn't long after I got back where things kind of took a turn for the worse with him, and he ended up passing away. And a lot of the family was there and that, so that was all good. But after he had passed away, I very quickly just sort of accepted the fact that it happened, because what else can you do? I know everyone takes these things differently, but I wanted to get out of the hospital as fast as I could. And I decided to go. I knew there was a hiking trail. That was my first instinct, was just to get out on my own and go up this little hiking trail that was right behind the hospital. And I got to a point and I sat down on this rock and was just sort of sitting there. And it was almost like a scene from a movie, because it was kind of like a cloudy, shitty day. And all of a sudden the sun pops out. The clouds sort of just split for a minute. And out of nowhere, there's these 3 deer just walked out, and they're about 30 feet away from me. Which sounds like I'm making this up or whatever, man, but it was kind of a neat moment where I was reflecting on the amount of hunting and fishing and everything that he did. And I really felt like I have to sort of pick up where he left off and continue this. And I know it would have meant a lot to him. And so it wasn't like instantly after he passed away. It was probably a year and a half, or I guess a year after, something like that, where I started talking to you about it, and I had the core manual and all that stuff. So it's really is an honor to kind of be out there with all of his equipment now, and he inspired me, and I got you into it, and you know what I mean? It's just a really cool thing, and I would encourage anyone who's got, kids to get them into hunting or anything outdoors for that matter, you know what I mean? And so it's a pretty cool bond and such a cool learning experience, because a lot of what I know about the outdoors is from being out there with him and him showing me all kinds of cool shit. And anyway, so yeah, I think a lot of reasons, or 100% of the reason why this podcast is happening and why we're both hunting is because of him. So yeah, I kind of just wanted to mention that. And when people hear me referring to him in past tense, that's why he's no longer here. But yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to say about that. And for anybody whose old man is still around, spend time with them and call him every day and all that kind of shit, because you never know, life is short. But enjoy it and celebrate people for all the positive things that they put into your life.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. We should probably cheers them with this.
Yeah, we should. We drank all of our beer already, though.
I think you're right, though. Like, without kind of everything that happened there, we probably wouldn't be sitting here.
I don't think we would
wouldn't be hunters. So
yeah,
there's definitely a couple of silver linings there for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And like I say, I just try and look back at it, and my way to sort of connect is to be outside. So I'm always thinking about it when we're out there. And yeah, it's a cool thing, man. So
for sure.
Yeah, I don't want to make it sound sad or anything, because I think it's all positive, really.
Yeah.
But we're cheers in here with finished off beers that are paired. We're pairing each episode with a different beer. And I went to the liquor store today, and because we spent so much time on talking about the Wolf Call last week, I found a beer from Wolf Brewing. So I figured that was the one we needed to have today. And this one is from Vancouver Island, and they call it a Scotch ale. It's a darker, it's a copper ale, and it's 6.5%. It was really good. I didn't know what to expect. I often, when I'm checking out beers, I'm looking at the labels and stuff like that, and I've been choosing BC stuff for what we've been doing. And they've got it's a limited edition artist series on these labels, which are kind of cool. So
I think it's my favorite so far.
Yeah.
I kind of like the darker beer, though. Like, this is more of it's almost like a stout.
Yeah, definitely.
It's pretty good.
Kelly and I think, well, I do anyways, I want to learn a bit more about beer in this process too, because I enjoy it. Not an alcoholic or anything like that, but it's nice to sit down and have a couple of brewskis while we do this thing. So anybody out there who wants to suggest any beer to us or anything like that, feel free to let us know. And we write our pairing suggestions in the episode notes in iTunes and stuff like that. So if you're wondering what we're drinking, I think this is my favorite one so far. So Wolf Brewing Co.
It's my favorite label too.
Yeah. It's a nice coastal painting of the ocean and that. So Cool.
Sweet.
Anything else you wanted to chat about before we call this an episode?
No, I think we covered a few things this week. So
yeah, we didn't mention that Corey is MIA.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get a hold of him. We'll get him on here.
Yeah. If not, I know there's other guys who are interested to, but I want to get him in as our first guest because he was part of the whole getting this thing started, and I talked about my dad sort of inspiring me, which made me talk to you, but then you talked to Corey and he was signed up for the course. So it's like all these things that came together at once that are really responsible for.
Yeah. He was already signed up, and then I said, well, do you mind if a couple of us join you? And then that was when we all kind of ended up taking it. So it really pushed the momentum, and at the end of the day, we got our hunting on. Happened. So
we pushed on this before. Anybody out there who's thinking about hunting, get your buddies, I think if it was just left up to me, I wouldn't do it. And that's why it took so fucking long in the first place, is because it was just like my dad and my brother-in-law, my brother being like, get your license. I'm like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to go and do this course by myself. But as soon as, it became a group thing, you have to. So anyone who's thinking about it,
just book it. Just
fucking right now. We're going to wait right now. I can make the call. And I think I text this to you, Cal. I think it'd be fun. Anybody who's thinking about hunting, we're going to get them to sign up for the core. And it's the moment they sign up for the core and PAL, that's the hunting license and firearms license. As soon as they're signed up, we're going to pull them in here and talk to them.
Yeah, I might have one buddy that's in that position, but I'll have to put a little pressure on him and get him to sign up.
He's not allowed to come in here unless he's signed up, though.
Yeah.
That's the requirement.
For sure.
Anyways, I think that's it for this one. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers.
Yeah, happy hunting.